So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the CETUS protocol within the SUI ecosystem. Now, I've been very bullish on the SUI ecosystem during this cycle, and I'm looking at projects underneath SUI. So one of the projects that I really like is the CETUS protocol. CETUS is a decentralized exchange, so a DEX, and also a concentrated liquidity market maker, a CLMM. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. If you just jump right over here onto the charts, you can see that CETUS right now is trading at 11.7 cents. It's going at an $80 million market cap with about 68% of its supply in circulation. So you can see right over here, 685 million of the 1 billion tokens that are in circulation. Now, back in November of last year, when everything was taking off and the SUI ecosystem was blowing up, you could see that it traded up all the way at 50 cents at its all-time high, 49.50 cents, and it started to come down like everything else. Now, for me, right now, Bitcoin is in its sort of downturn. It's quiet, it's boring, it's trading very choppy right now, and there's no major catalyst. But usually this is the time when everybody is fearing. That's when I look for opportunities. Now, before I go further, remember that none of this is financial or investment advice. The crypto market is extremely risky and volatile. Most people lose their money. So make sure you guys do your own research and due diligence before you get into anything. Now, back to the video right over here. As you can see, like I was saying, during this downtime period, it's a very good opportunity to be looking into these projects. Now, if I go into DeFi Llama right over here, I can see that the SUI ecosystem has about $1.1 billion of total value locked. At its peak, it had over $2 billion. And if you look down right over here in terms of the different protocols, you could see that CETUS, in terms of the DEX, it's the highest protocol. It's got $146 million of TVL compared to all the other. I think it's doing most of the volume, if not 70 to 80% of the volume in the SUI ecosystem. And when I jump right over here and I take a look at the CETUS protocol, their website itself, the reason why I really like it is because it's done a lot of volume, 46 billion in total volume, 11 million accounts, over 106 million of transactions, so all trades. So I'm just going to go into here, access the app. Okay, so let's jump over to the app. It looks and feels very smooth. One thing I like about SUI is that it's fast, it's quick, it's cheap. It reminds me of Solana in its previous cycle, and I see the SUI ecosystem continuing to expand. So let's say I wanted to buy $5 right over here. This is just one of my dummy wallet of SUI using USDC. I just go over here and I go to swap. Okay, it shows me right over here, and it's about 1.1% cheaper. And then what I can do is I can go and swap, and you can see, boom, right away, it's already done. So that's how smooth it is. And then, of course, you can look at the SUI scan to take a look at your transaction. So it's really smooth right over here. It's got all the bells and whistles, what you usually have in terms of your slippage. And then if you take a look right over here, it's got some other functionality. You could do a limit order. What that means is if I do $5 of SUI, this is how much $5 of USDC will purchase of SUI, but what I can do is limit the price. So down to 2.37, okay, that would be my limit order, just like any centralized exchange can do. It could also do my dollar cost average, so my DCA. Let's say I wanted to DCA $10 into SUI. It can invest every hour, day, week, month, whatever it is you want over a number of orders. Let's say 5 orders, okay, 3 orders. So whatever it is you want, and then you can set the price. Let's say I wanted SUI between 220 and 230. This would be my dollar cost average order, okay? So it's got all those functionalities of a swap, a limit order, a dollar cost average. The other thing you can do, what makes it so special, is that it's a concentrated liquidity market maker. Now, what we can do with that is, let's say you go into a pool. Notice all of its liquidity pool right over here. There's about $147 million of total value locked, okay? Its cumulative volume, like we said earlier, it's $48 billion that it's done, okay? So if we take a look right over here, we look at the different pools, and in terms of the reward, you can see that the SUI USDC pool is paying about 99.7%, so almost 100% APR, okay? Right over here, the DEEP, so that's the DEEP token right over here. That's DeepBooks token and SUI. It's paying about 221%. So if you go in, one of the special things that you could do is you can set your liquidity in the range of you want, okay? So today's not a day to talk about the different in terms of how you place your liquidity. You could do a full range, a custom range, and a conservative range, and you'll see that your APR changes depending on how you place your liquidity. But let's talk about what makes it special, the concentrated liquidity market maker. maker. What is this concept? So let's start out. So here's my concentrated liquidity market maker, CLMM. Let's say that same example, that ETH example. So today, let's say ETH is trading between, I'm just making this up, from 0 to infinity, okay? So in terms of a non-concentrated liquidity market maker, your liquidity is being used from 0 to infinity, but we know that's not a very valuable use of your liquidity because no one's actually trading at ETH at these prices, right? So generally ETH right now, so if I come right over here, you could see, I'm just going to change my color so that you could see right over here. Let's say ETH is trading between 1500 and 2500, okay? So right over here, you could see this is where most of the trades happen, right, on ETH between 1500 and 2500. So what I can do as a concentrated liquidity market maker is that I can set my price so that my liquidity that I'm providing is only within this range and it's not being wasted out here where we're not really trading. So that's the difference of a concentrated liquidity market maker. And for those of you who are new or just forgotten about liquidity providing, so here's my liquidity provider, okay? So here's my liquidity provider. Here's me, I come along, I'm gonna provide liquidity into this. So I'm gonna draw a different color right over here. This is the liquidity pool, okay? So this is the LP pool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna supply that LP pool. I'm gonna supply both ETH, okay? And I'm gonna supply it USDC, so right over here. So that's what I'm doing. And by providing those tokens, I'm actually earning the fees when somebody comes along and wants to trade with that liquidity pool. So here's a trader. So I'm gonna use a different color so that you can see. I'm gonna call it T for trader. So the trader wants ETH. So he wants to buy ETH. So ETH is gonna go to the trader. The trader is gonna take ETH. And then the trader is going to supply USDC. It's going to buy USDC. So the trader is actually gaining ETH and then paying for it with using USDC. And I earn a fee based on that. But in order for me to maximize my liquidity, remember right over here when I talked about from 0 to infinity during the last time, I actually only want my liquidity to be concentrated between 1500 and 2500. This is the sweet spot for ETH right now. We're just using arbitrary value for now, but this is where my liquidity would be maximized, right? As a liquidity provider right over here, I want to be able to supply that liquidity here so I can earn the most fees. So this is the concentrated liquidity market maker concept. So quickly right away, you can see some advantages of CETUS as a protocol. Number one is its CLMM, the concentrated liquidity. What that means is as a liquidity provider, I can actually put up less capital in a tighter range while earning higher fees and rewards. Number two is as a trader, you get a tighter spread, less slippage. It makes the trading experience so much more efficient and smooth. Number two is it's on the SUI ecosystem, the SUI blockchain. What that means is that you're trading faster at lower fees versus something like Ethereum, Uniswap on Ethereum where the fees are very high, it's very slow. Number three is they are the leading DEX in the SUI ecosystem. You don't know who will win the race, but right now as a DEX, they are leading, doing over $40 billion, hundreds of millions of transactions. So I think that they are in a comfortable position in order to do great things within the SUI ecosystem. And if we come right over here and take a look at the tokenomics, you can see right away there's about 1 billion CETUS token. And if we come down in terms of its distribution and vesting schedule, so 50% goes towards the community and liquidity pools, okay? So 15% is the investors, 15% for liquidity treasury, and then 20% for the team and advisors. If you take a look right over here in their vesting schedule, let's go to the team and advisors. So notice they're owned by the founding team, so that's a significant amount, but it's expected of most projects. A 12-month locking. So what does this mean, this cliff right over here? It means the first 12 months they're not able to sell. But come right over here, the 24 months that follow that cliff, this vesting structure, it means that every single month on the 13th month, they will be able to sell 1/24th of their tokens, okay? So same thing with early investors, these private investors, 6 months where they can't sell anything. On the 13th month, they will start selling 1/12 of their tokens, okay? So if we look at the emission schedule right over here, the bad part is that it's not locked for a very long time, so therefore tokens are being dumped right now. But the flip side is nobody will dump on you at the end of the cycle. Okay, so as we go further down, right now 68% is already in circulation, so I don't expect major unlocks. I actually prefer most of the tokens to be, unlocked right away, so that way there's 85% in circulation, so we know there's only 15% less. So in terms of the risks and benefits right over here, you could see it from both sides. So the one thing I couldn't find a lot of information about was the founders and the founding team. So if you take a look at this article right here by Coinbase, you could see that they actually referenced the co-founder, Henry Zhu. So this was the only information I got about it. I did some research on LinkedIn. You can see right over here, if you go to Henry Zhu, even though it says he's a co-founder, he actually doesn't list the project in his bio at all. The only thing is this Meso Lab right over here. If you click on the Meso Lab, what you do is, notice it's a Web3 and blockchain projects. It's a DeFi lab that incubates promising Web3 and blockchain projects. That's the only information that I was able to find about the team. But when I go back onto the CETUS website right over here, you can see they've been audited by OtterSec and MoveBit. If I click right over here and I go to OtterSec, you can see it's one of the more reputable auditing firms, right? They've worked with some pretty big projects, as you can see right over here. And then if you go down, you could see all the different projects that they've audited before, and they actually list out their findings. Okay, so that gives me a little bit more reassurance, although I would like a little more information about the team. And then some other drawbacks that I see is, number one, it's complex, right? We talk about concentrated liquidity market maker as a strong point, but that's also a very complicated topic because a lot of people, when selecting liquidity providing ranges, it's not that simple. So number one is complexity. Number two is it's fairly young and not battle tested. Just like SUI compared to something like Solana, Ethereum, Cardano, all the other layer ones have been battle tested through multiple cycles, where SUI is a little bit new. Also, some of the other more known players like Uniswap, Pancake, those are all battle tested DEXs that have gone through a couple of cycles, and a lot of people are using it. So fairly new, fairly young. The other thing is it's also very risky. Like I said, there's not a lot of information about the founders. Even though we know it's being audited, I'd like a little bit more information. And then it's also fairly dependent on SUI doing well, because if SUI doesn't do well, this liquidity protocol is not going to do well. So keep those risks in mind going forward. So some final thoughts on CETUS. Number one is I like it. It's the leading DEX and CLMM on the SUI protocol. Okay, it's the fastest running horse right now in terms of the DEXs, so I do think that it's gotten a head start. Number two is its price right now. So its price right now, the tokens are relatively, 68% in circulation. I know I'm not going to be dumped on. There's not going to be a major dilution that's coming anytime soon. So I think this is good going forward. In terms of its market cap, it's reasonable right now. With regards to taking a look in terms of buying it within the ecosystem, I think that it's a fairly decent value at these levels. It's going to run harder as the market continues to pick up. Remember that none of this is financial advice. Make sure you take a deeper look into the SUI ecosystem because there's a lot of projects like CETUS. So for me, I'm going to continue to keep an eye on CETUS and see how it does in the long term before I jump in. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and learned something about CETUS. It's one that I'm going to keep my eyes on. So if you like content like this, please consider subscribing, and I will see you during the next time.